Ini Mbak Rubeta ya, yang dulu di ITC, betul tidak?
Halo, iya Mas Syarif, apa kabar?
Kabar udah lama ketemu ya.
Iya,
Ketemunya di sini ternyata.
ketemu juga orang-orang sini. Alumni ITC semua nih, apa kabar?
Namanya,
Sehat?
kok namanya kenal gitu, sehat-sehat.
Aku juga udah kenal, tapi belum mau nyapa, takut.
Oke.
Ini di grup, ada grupnya Pak Adam sekalian ya, sama
Ada.
Bu B ya?
Ada. Ya.
Soalnya di agenda beda tuh, agenda break room 4.
Oh gitu. Oh.
Oke.
Oke. Baru.
Thank you. Aku mute dulu ya.
Siap. Good afternoon, Pak Adam. How are you?
Good afternoon, Pak.
Apa kabar, Pak Adam?
Baik. Can you hear me okay? Is the microphone all right?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay, very good. And I will share my screen when you tell me to. And I have one colleague also speaking. Thank you.
Great. Is Andreas here? Andreas?
I hope he comes here. He was a little confused for the breakout room number changing from 4 to 3, but I hope he joins.
I can see him now.
Good.
Yes, I'm here. All good.
Yeah,
all
great.
good.
This and the sound is also clear.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And is my video okay?
Yes.
Good.
Clear. So you are in Australia now, Adam?
Yes, I was ready to come to Jakarta next week, next Sunday.
Recording in progress.
Okay.
And I'm waiting on my visa.
Okay, and I want Pak Arif. Selamat sore Pak Arif, udah hadir.
Sore Pak. Good afternoon everyone. Pak Adam.
Good afternoon.
So we have Pak Adam and Pak Andreas, Pak Arif, and Bu Ita. Carolita is it already here? Bu Ita. Yeah, Bu Ita is already here.
Yes, I'm here, Pak Syarif.
Yeah, thank you. So everybody is already here, but unfortunately, Bu Belinda is not able to come because there is already another task from her office, I believe. So we wait for the queue to start from the committee. Okay, there is a queue from the committee. Thank you, Nets. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We will start. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this and second, actually, to see the presentation material from each presenter, but if presenter would like to share it by themselves, is also fine. And the third is for the speakers. There will be 20 minutes provided to present their presentations. And then maybe one question each after the presentation. And then later, in the end, if we still have time, we will have the question and answer sessions. And prior to the end of presentation, 5 minutes before the end of presentation, I will remind the presenter about the time. Okay, on this occasion, we will have the opportunity to get very valuable information from actually four presenters related to land application. We will have Pak Adam Jiran and Pak Andreas from FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization of UN. And we also have Pak Arif Darmawan from Lampung University, and also Ibu Ita Kaulita from LAPAN or Aeronautics and Space Research Organization, BRIN. I'm still confused because it's a new organization. So please it's LAPAN. And unfortunately, as I mentioned before, Ibu Brenda, as
recording stopped,
was planned according to the schedule, could not attend the conference because there was another assignment from her office. Okay, without further ado, I will read out the CV of the first speaker. So, Mr. Adam Jiran, please, operator, could you pin Pak Adam Kemp? Okay, there you go. So, Pak Adam Jiran is an international forestry expert with over 30 years work experience in forestry. He's working at FAO since 2008, and since 2018, he moved to Jakarta to support Indonesia with national forest monitoring systems, including forest inventory and remote sensing for forest and peatland monitoring. Pak Adam and I will also with Pak Andreas will share the information related to remote sensing system and maybe platform developed at FAO, and some examples of land, forest, and peatland monitoring. So please, Pak Adam, the floor is yours, and I would like to remind you that, again, you have 20 minutes to present, and 5 minutes prior to the end of presentation time, I will remind you again. So please, Pak Adam.
Okay, I will share my screen and just tell me that you can see the slides with the bright colored picture of the remote sensing on the screen. It's correct?
Not yet, I think.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Let me just try again for that one. And yeah, how's that?
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
It's very colorful.
Yep. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you very much to WRI and all the Indonesian organizers for this workshop. FAO is very pleased to be able to be here to talk about some of our remote sensing systems, and in particular examples of land and forest peatland monitoring. My name is Adam Jiran. I work for FAO, but I'm also here with a colleague, Andreas Walrath, who's one of our expert remote sensing staff. Pablo Martin is hopefully joining soon to answer questions, but I want to mention also other staff, Maria Nuutinen, Eric Lindquist, a whole team of people who have built the CPAL platform you're going to see some examples about, plus many more. I haven't got time to mention, but I'd like to thank them all. So without further ado, I'm going straight into the slides. What I want to do today is to give you a presentation of three parts. Firstly, I will talk about some innovative work we've been doing on peatland restoration monitoring. I hope you see the second slide with the 3 samples on it. 3 points, it's correct. Can you see the slide? It's got
yes,
3 points.
Yes,
yes, Adam, we do.
Good, thank you. Just checking the movement works. Okay, so the first point I want to talk about, that I'll talk about, is about peatland, innovative peatland monitoring that we've done with Indonesia, because I think that's an innovative use of remote sensing. But then Andreas will talk about our remote sensing platform called CPAL in more detail, talking about the data, methods, and some applications. And then we'll have one slide of summary conclusions. Thank you. So firstly, what I want to start about is talking about our innovative peatland work. What we've done in that is take advantage of this, the Sentinel-1 SAR data, because it's very sensitive to soil moisture in peatlands, particularly in relatively open areas. We recognize that it, however, has the C-band in SAR does not penetrate dense forests well. So we recognize there is some limitation there, but the rest of the data is well covered, and this is a really big advantage. And because Sentinel-1 covers all of Indonesia every 12 days, this is a fantastic monitoring tool. And we found we were able to get some very good correlations between the groundwater level, which goes up and down in the peatlands, particularly with canals, between that and the soil moisture, the surface soil moisture. Because the reflectance changes, this signal can be interpreted and give us a really good indication of what the depth, what the surface soil moisture is, and also that is correlated with the groundwater levels. And I'll show some slides about that. The reason we're doing this work is that it's a huge challenge to restore peatlands. Around 99% of Indonesia's peatlands have had some degradation level. And this is almost 24 million hectares of peatlands across Indonesia. And those peatlands are very important for greenhouse gas measurements. So this lack of good data and methods for peatland monitoring is a really big gap that we wanted to fill. And it's really important because the water level, the depth of the water below the surface is proportionally related to the greenhouse gas emissions. And it also, when that peatland dries out, it makes them more susceptible to fires. So we used the innovative radar satellite Sentinel-1 to monitor peatland moisture and to map it. We also developed capacity. This was in a project over the last 2 years with BRGM, Peatland Restoration Agency, and Ministry of Environment. In fact, 14 agencies, 100 people from 14 agencies attended and learned how to use these tools. What we did was, in the initial situation, was these scattered sites across the peatland. This is south central Kalimantan. There were a few scattered field monitoring points. What we did was to take the satellite data and to produce a map across the whole of those peatlands, so that in between the dots we were able to fill in. So rather than just having scattered field estimates of soil moisture, we were able to get those across the whole landscape in between where there isn't dense forest, and we can do that every 2 weeks and get an updated monitoring. When we do that, we find we get some really good results. But first, we wanted to also explain that there are some limitations in how we did that. What we did with that was take the field monitoring points, which are a lot of them in separate scattered areas, and they have a wide geographic distribution. And we collected a lot of data from those field groundwater level, and we wanted to work out where this modeling might work. And the map at the bottom there shows the green areas where we have confidence in the model. The red areas where there is often dense forest or we don't have samples are areas we think is more field data is needed. And we really want to get more field data to improve the accuracy of the model and the area of coverage. Peat depth and the multi-temporal SAR can also help us with improving these models. So when we do this, we get some really promising results of using the real groundwater data and field measurements to train this model. There was an original paper based on detecting soil surface models from Griffeneder. We modified that, and Andreas was one of the people involved, so he can explain this much better. To get a model that runs is the blue line from the satellite data, and the orange line is the data from the field. So you can see a really good match of that over time. But the really fantastic thing about this data is to be able to get a trend through time where you can actually plot this over time with a chart for the absolute value of the groundwater level, and also you can map it across the whole of a PHU, and we can map it across millions of hectares because this is effectively running in a cloud supercomputer, so we can run this quite regularly every 12 days or every month. We think probably maybe once every quarter would be sufficient. So this is, we think, a really innovative breakthrough. Indonesia is the first country to do this, and we're really pleased to work with the agencies on doing this. So that's the key thing that I wanted to say about our peatland model. And now I'll pass over to Andreas, who will talk about our CPAL platform that is the tool that we use behind this. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. And hello from my side. It's a pleasure to be here. As Adam said, I'm going to talk a bit more about the platform that enabled those analyses you've just seen, and would like to show that it's actually capable of doing much more, and especially focusing a bit on the latest developments we're doing on the platform. So for those who don't know CPAL is FAO's data access, processing and analysis platform for land applications with geospatial data, whereby we mean mainly satellite remote sensing data. It is completely free and open, and everybody who's interested can sign up at cpal.io. At the moment, we have more than 7,000 users from over 116 countries. Next slide, please, Adam. CPAL has many functionalities that address different levels of expertise. Today, I'm going to talk mainly about its recipes that are built on the API of Google Earth Engine, as our aim is to drastically reduce the burden of assessing and processing Earth observation data. All this functionality is built upon an easy-to-use graphical user interface, and no coding skills are needed at all. The functionality ranges from the creation of cloud-free optical mosaics, as shown in the animation on the right, to multi-temporal radar composites, as well as the classification and also more advanced time series analysis of remote sensing data that can all be used for a wide range of land applications. Next slide, please. Indeed, the amount of free and open satellite data had an enormous boost throughout the last decade. We heard this earlier in the talk of Matt Hansen. And it basically became impossible to leverage this full potential of the data that we have when working on your own desktop machine. So CPAL as a cloud platform facilitates access to such data, whereas the data and the computing resides in the cloud and does not have to be downloaded locally. All you need from your end is a PC with the internet connection and basically a web browser to get started. While in principle, all kinds of data can be processed on CPAL, we provide easy non-coding access to a selection of these. Here in the image, you can basically see our main data sources. That is the monthly mosaics of the planet NICFI data, as well as the full archive of Landsat and Sentinel-2 on the optical domain. In addition, we also provide access to radar data, such as Sentinel-1, as well as annual composites from JAXA's Geodan carbon mosaics, with the same ease of use and no real expert knowledge on specific pre-processing steps. All this data can then be easily combined in order to take advantage of the complementary information content, which ultimately leads to more accurate results, being for classification, change detection, or other applications. With more and more data, our observation density increases as well, which allows to look more deeply into the temporal domain. And this is what shows a bit this slide here. Pixel values of dynamic land cover classes, such as crop or deciduous forest, to actually change over time, while the actual class does not. So having a better idea of the temporal dynamics allows to better discriminate actual change from seasonal induced change. Therefore, we more and more use so-called spatiotemporal features within our classification approaches to take advantage of this added information. In this way, the seasonality is rather a part of the signal of information than an artifact to be concerned with when using single-time mosaics. In this example, we can see model time series using the CCDC algorithm for the entire country of Uganda. Forest areas in the western part of the country are rather stable in time, while grass and croplands do have a seasonal signature. CCDC stands for Continuous Change Detection and Classification and allows for both land cover mapping based on spatial temporal features, as well as to do direct time series analysis. Next slide, please. We heard earlier about the Planet NICFI data and the recent availability of this free, very high resolution data from Planet, thanks to the provision of the Norwegian government and its NICFI program, allows to see at a level of spatial detail that was previously only possible with commercial data. An implementation we're working on right now is shown on this slide, where we use these monthly mosaics, combine them into yearly mosaics, and run change algorithms that can not only clearly show larger deforestation events, but also allow for rather difficult to map degradation in a very detailed way. Next slide, please. With all these terabytes of data at hand in the cloud, it is also important to still be able to visualize the in and output adequately and efficiently. Matt Hansen was talking about this, that you really have to look at the data. It's not, you cannot fully trust those machine learning algorithms and all the things that are behind. There is some human interaction that is needed. In CPOL, we tried to address this recently with our new multi-view feature, where in the user interface, it is possible to load up to 4 different layers. As you can see in this screenshot, the slider, basically these lines you can move around. And with this, it's very easy to compare the loaded layers very quickly and intuitively. And this not only allows the user to explore the color signatures of different data sets, different color composites or radar for a given area at the same time, it also eases the use and increases the confidence when collecting training data, a very important step when creating maps. Sorry. By adding new training data to the map, the classification output is automatically updated. And this allows to see the effect of the added training point instantaneously. Here you can see a snapshot taken for Uganda where different optical and radar datasets were combined to map different land cover classes. Next slide, please. Another example where multi-sensor data has been crucial is in this classification for forest and other land cover types relevant to peat occurrence in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Here, a combination of Landsat Best Pixel Mosaic, a multi-temporal Sentinel-1 composite, and additional elevation layers proved to be a promising approach to map different vegetation types. When using only one of the 3 layers, results were not satisfactory at all, independent of the input used. However, the complementary character of optical data, so the reflectance, the radar data that is rather sensitive to structure in land cover or in forest, and the elevation allowed to overcome these difficulties and actually come up with good results. Next slide, please. My colleagues were also able to scale this kind of approach up for the whole Central African countries within a project where it is all about drivers of deforestation and forest degradation that are subsequently identified by time series analysis. On the left, you can see their basic land cover map for 2015 that is still under validation, but already shows more than 85% of accuracy for the forest classes. And again, this is done by a combination of different sensors, so specifically combining optical with radar data, which makes a lot of sense in those cloud-prone regions around the tropics. Another example is biomass map for Ethiopia, done as part of the National Forest Inventory there, where again, a combination of optical and radar data sources result in the best estimates using a data-driven approach, as radar is sensitive to volume and biomass. Thanks to the power of the cloud, the available data, platforms such as CPOL and trained users, such analysis can now be done within days. And they would take years, if not decades, sometimes for such big areas to do all the steps by hand if you do it on your own computer. Next slide, please. CPOL offers also for expert users the possibility to launch their own computing instances. You can see here in the image in the middle a flavor of those. And within those instances, you can run image processing and analysis tools that are actually already pre-installed. The type of tools ranges from development environments such as RStudio or Jupyter Notebook to geospatial and machine learning libraries, for example, in Python, or software packages for remote sensing processing, all open source software, so Snap or Orfeo Toolbox. The instances that can be launched range from minimalistic machines with a few CPUs and RAM available, up to 128 CPU cores and almost 2 terabytes of RAM for massive computations. In addition, it is also possible to launch GPU instances that are suited for deep learning types of applications. Next slide, please. On top of those instances, we can also run different apps that are tailored to very specific use cases, such, for example, the soil moisture retrieval that has been done in the PRIMS project with Indonesia. But there are also other examples. On this slide, for example, you can see the CPAVE app, as we call it, the CPAL Planet Active Fires Explorer. And that allows to display the latest fire alerts from low resolution data, from namely the firm's fire alerts, and then verify them with daily planet data at very high resolution of about 3 meters. Other apps cover things like accuracy assessment based on stratified sampling approaches, various time series analysis, restoration potential, and much more. All of what I've shown now is just a snapshot of the possibilities you can do. So please come and try it out. And it's also worth mentioning that all of this cannot be achieved by FAO alone. So the realization of this platform is really thanks to the collaboration from a wide range of partners, which of course include the donors, mainly the Norwegian government, but also private partners like Google for accessing the computing in the cloud, space agencies such as ESA, JAXA, and NASA for access to the satellite data, but also we collaborate with University for algorithm development. And with this, I hand over to Adam to give the summary. Thanks.
Thanks, Andreas. I'll just go quickly because I know we're on time, but I just wanted to summarize our key points. What we've shown here is that we've got new open source remote sensing tools that are available for both peatlands and forests. The CPAL platform helps break down these barriers, giving access to the data and supercomputers for easy state-of-the-art remote sensing work. It's got easy time series change detection. There are modules already set up, recipes for that. For doing that work. As Andreas has said, we've got data fusion to be able to pull together different data sources, look at them together. And we've also demonstrated one very practical use in Indonesia, a really innovative use for groundwater level monitoring for Indonesian peatlands over large areas every 12 days. I want to point out and finish with a couple of extra points though, just that good ground quality, good ground data is really fundamental for this. We can't do a lot of this without better ground data. And I also want to stress the really valuable role that people still play. It's not just the tools or the artificial intelligence. We really need the people's capacity here. And I think in Indonesia, you've got a great potential for this. We know from the peatland work, we had 100 people working to do the peatlands training, and they all really put in a lot of effort and learned a lot across 14 institutions. And FAO is very keen to continue doing that. We've got online training sessions, manuals and videos, and I've got a screenshot of our happy participants in that workshop to end on. So from my point of view, that's the end of our presentation. I leave you with some of the links, and we're happy to take questions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Adam and Pak Andreas. You are very much on time for the presentations. So I would like to invite one participants. If there's anybody who wants to ask questions directly to Pak Adam or Pak Andreas. Thank you, Pak Ikin. Please, Padam.
Yes, nice to hear from you, Pat Solihin. Very good to get that question or two questions. Let me go quickly to it. I think what I was meaning there, particular uses require ground data. For example, that groundwater monitoring tool, it needs to be calibrated or tuned to Indonesia. And when we did that, we found by putting the Indonesian data into the system, Andreas can explain this more if you need to, but basically it really improved the model. The global model had a pretty good result from the paper, but it was generated with for other countries and other conditions. When we inserted the Indonesian peatland into the model, it really improved it. And so we were able to get a much better fit with the results we were seeing. But of course, that's modeling something that does need or is driven by ground data, the measurements in the field. What some other products don't need ground data. For example, within CEPL, you can use some of the higher resolution remote sensing data to do the accuracy assessment on some of the medium resolution like Landsat or Sentinel. So there are tools in there where you can use better remote sensing data in samples, as Matt Hansen was explaining before, and actually inside the tool do all the analysis just with some remote sensing data, higher resolution compared to another remote sensing. And so there is some cases where for particular uses you don't need ground data, but ultimately sometimes it's really good. I'm a field forester and I believe ultimately we should be checking a lot of these things in the field because we need to check that it's real. We also, if we're going to do something about the results from our remote sensing, we need to understand what the people are doing on the ground when you go there. It's no good to make an idea and a policy or a plan on remote sensing, seeing a change, if you don't understand what those people are really doing in the field. You need to have that information as well to make the remote sensing data really most powerful for policymakers. Thanks. I hope that answered. Oh, your last question about how quickly can we do it? The data can be processed quite quickly. Andreas could answer an absolute number in hours, but certainly you can run these things quite quickly. So it is possible to do it monthly, and it would take you only a few hours to run most of those peatland analyses. And you can scale up the computer if you need to do something faster. Although we find some of these programs can actually be run even on modest computers. And so Andreas can give you a better answer if you want an accurate number, but the reality is that it's possible to do this every month. We were able to do it in workshops covering the whole country with about 10 staff. So in the workshop, so it's quite possible operationally. Thanks.
Okay. Andreas, would you like to add something?
You could theoretically do it probably in a day if you use small chunks of data. So if your aim is monthly, you will definitely have no problem to produce this kind of data. And maybe to add on top of Adam's comment on the ground truth data. So of course, it's very important because the more field data you have and the more conditions they cover in terms of, for example, a lot of field stations are close to roads or where they're very accessible, but for example, not in the center of this peat hydrological units because they're just very difficult to assess. So if we can get more data from those areas, for example, and they represent different landscapes within the country, the better it is for the model to extrapolate to all the conditions you can find. So this is valid for the spatial domain, but also for the temporal domain in terms of if there are different weather conditions, can the model adopt? So it's always good to have this ground data, and it's also fundamental also to validate it because, I mean, again, it's a model, it's somehow a simplification of the world, and these simplifications of the world might not be able to capture everything. So the human in the loop is fundamental and needs to understand this and needs to see the field data to the remote sensing data and then do the conclusions. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Adam and Pandes. I have to go to the next presenter, but please. Be there with me. But okay, there I did. So Pak Arif Darman is also a forester by how you call it, by not by training but study, because the background is for forester with very abundant experience as well. And currently Pak Arif is a lecturer at Department of Forestry, Faculty of Agriculture, University of Lampung University, Indonesia. And in between his teaching activities, he is also a consultant on several projects related to forest monitoring. So Pak Arif will share the information related to GPS technology to mitigate human-elephant conflicts. It is very interesting. So please, Pak Arif, the floor is yours. And again, I would like to remind you that you have 20 minutes to present, and 5 minutes prior to the end, I will remind you again. Please,
Thank
Pak
you.
Arif.
Thank you, Pak Syarif. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Arif, and I will present the latest result from my team about the using of GPS collar to mitigate human-elephant conflict in Bukit Barisan Selatan, Indonesia. I'm sorry to take you very deep down to earth, yeah, because maybe from the morning we only see the sky, so with you know, very different scale, but now we have to go down very deep, yeah, in one case study of elephant. So basically this is also one of the technology from the remote sensing, especially for navigation. So we present the latest result of using a GPS collar for elephant. So I start with the introduction. So Sumatran elephant, or the Elephas maximus sumatranus in Latin language, yeah, is a member of 3 subspecies of Asian elephant, which is variety of wildlife, which is very critically endangered of Sumatra by Indonesian government. So the species has been categorized as critically endangered according to the IUCN on 2012. And the population of Sumatran elephant is drastically declining because of the habitat loss and fragmentation. So we all maybe many of you see in the newspaper about the conflict between humans and elephant is now widespread, yeah, mainly because usually there are people around the forest planting, you know, palawija, you know, food, staple food, yeah, such as corn, maize, or maybe singkong, cassava, yeah. And many of the elephant goes out from the forest and eat them, yeah, you know. They when the plant is the time of harvesting the plant, then the elephant go out from the forest and eat most of the planting, yeah. So that's why the conflict arise, yeah, between the humans and elephant. Why the conflict arise? Yeah, mostly because of the elephant is big animal, yeah. He need very much food, yeah. So it's minimal. He have to eat like 150 kilograms of food, yeah, for one individual. So that's why every day the elephant goes to go around, foraging and eating. So the human elephant conflicts left injuries, and in some instances death, not only for elephant but also humans. In the newspaper we saw maybe human casualties, because of the elephant, and also elephant was dead because of the human. So that is the conflict. So habitat distribution and preference studies can be a measure in answering wildlife geographical range and wildlife habitat relationships and management strategies. So in the left, in the right, you can see the area of in the red, maybe orange color. You can see the last habitat of, or the last area that people see wild elephant, wild elephant of Sumatra. So in Lampung, we have here in the Bukit Barisan Selatan here, and in the Waikambas National Park here. So our study now is in this area, so in Bukit Barisan National Park. So the research on distribution and habitat preference for the Sumatran elephant is important to be able to determine the behavior of animal towards changes in the landscape and as a strategy for recovery of populations and their habitat. So that's why the objective of this research is to analyze the geographical range of Sumatran elephant using Collar GPS data, and to determine the landscape characteristic of geographical range or habitat preference of Sumatran elephant. So the Collar GPS was placed here, in the neck of elephant. Usually a female elephant, because the elephant is an animal that usually goes in a group, and the leader of the group is not a male but mostly a female. So many say that the group of elephant is like matrilineal group. So the head of the group is a female. So that's why when we put the Collar GPS will be put on the neck of the female elephant. So, and the material and methods for this research is a positional point tracks of two groups. We use two groups of Sumatran elephant. We call it Bunga in Sumaka region, and Pemerihan we call it Citra. So Citra is the name of the elephant, Bunga as well. Bunga is the name of the elephant. So we call it just Semaka and Pemerihan, the two groups that captured by Collar GPS from 10 May to 10 July. So we took only 2 months for observation. Actually, until now, the Collar GPS is still running, but for the study, we only use for 2 months. And also Sentinel-2 image, 2020 Landsat image, topographic map from BIG, and camera and talisman for ground truth. So this is the GPS data specification. So it said that GPS signal was provided by Inmarsat, and the GPS the data was automatically tagged every hour. So we have 24 tags in 24 hours. So the total record for the 2 months is for the two groups is 2,600 points. 1,300 in Sumaka and 1,300 in Pemerihan. So this is the map. This is the elephant from in Sumaka here, and this is the elephant from Pemerihan. You can see the driven here, and actually here is the road that membelah, that cut membelah the Taman Nasional, ya.
Separated.
Yeah, separate the Taman Nasional. So this road is a national road actually that connecting Lampung to Bengkulu, ya. We call it the Lintas Barat, ya, the West Road, ya. So this is the result. We see the movement, yeah, by slope. We can see here that, yeah, it's like us, yeah. The elephant don't like very steep area for moving. So you can see here the Pemberihan and also in Semaka, it's similar, yeah. Mostly take the low, I mean, the a bit not very steep area for walking, yeah, for moving. And you can see by elevation, well, seems that elephant can be both in the high altitude and low altitude. Yeah, we can see here it's they can walk in the 5 meters until 800 meters. Yeah, because here is mostly dataran tinggi, yeah, high altitude. Yeah, and by aspect, we also see the movement by aspect. So based on our observation, there are no significant, how can I say, yeah, significant data that show that there is a relation between topographic aspect and the movement of elephant. And we can see here from the road, as I mentioned before, this is the road that cutting, yeah, the forest block in Bukit Barisan National Park. So this is the northern part, and then this is the southern part. And we can see here that the two group is not, how can I say, yeah, they are separated, yeah, by the road, yeah. You can see it is very beautiful here, yeah. And what, you know, that what can we derive from here, that the what can we derive from this data is the elephant like to you know, prefer the area that near to the road, yeah, near to the road, both in the two groups, yeah. The group from Pemberihan, you can see that they like to prefer the area that near to the road, and also in Semaka. So I can tell that perhaps, yeah, because road is near, yeah, near to the community, and also near to the what we call that, agricultural product, yeah. I mean, when the elephant roaming, yeah, near to the road, it means that there are how can I say, yeah, an agricultural field, yeah, that can be their food, yeah. So, and this is also about the river, yeah. So most of the elephants will walk, yeah, will prefer the area that near to the river, yeah, because it's related to their needs as well, yeah, about to the water, and they need the humidity for their body. So in the 2 months, the elephant seems to approaching the river, yeah, in their foraging. And we also see their preference to the land cover, and we see that forest is still the most land cover that they prefer for foraging. And after that, orchard, and some of other is other land cover, yeah, including the rice fields, crop and uses, and built up area. So the how can I say, the trend is nearly similar between the two groups. Yeah, and this is the analysis of conflict. Yeah, I try to combine between the conflict that may arise when uh, the elephant come to near to the road. Yeah, come to the road means come to the community. Yeah, and there are also a possibility that when the elephant approaching the batas, yeah, the boundary of the national park, it will also how can I say? It's also possible to the conflict. Yeah. So this is the potential conflict. Yeah. So I use the buffer area, buffer analysis for this, and this is the simple algorithm for defining the points. And we found that around 63% is prone to within 2 months. 63% is conflict, yeah, prone to conflict for the pemberian groups. And similar to Sumatra, 48.5% is potential for conflict, yeah, between the elephant and the human. And this is also interesting that within 60 days, we analyzed that every day, yeah, every day, the elephant have to go to the forest, yeah. So within the 60 days, elephant will be once in the forest every day, yeah. Not every day in the forest, but at least once he will come back to the forest. And other, you can see here, kebun campuran, yeah, orchards and others, yeah. You can see here in the semak belukar mostly agriculture. So their existence also quite high, yeah, kebun campuran as well, and padi, you can see here. So it means that a forest is still, how can I say, yeah, important shelter, yeah, for the elephant. So it means that they need a forest as well for mostly for shelter, not to find a food, yeah. But when they try to find the food, they go out, yeah, to the forest, to the agricultural area, because many of the food provided there. Yeah, this is one of the difficulty. Yeah, how we mitigate the conflict between the human and the elephant. So we also calculate the daily range. So it's like about 2 kilometers for the Sumatra group, and for the pemberian it's about 3.5 kilometers. Yeah, so it's quite small, yeah, relatively to other area like in India and other like in Thai, yeah, because usually the elephant daily range is about 4 to 5 kilometers per day, but maybe because their area is very how can I say, yeah, it's quite limited, so their daily range is also limited, yeah. So here we can see the path of foraging, yeah, the path of foraging of elephant from week 1 to 9. Yeah, we can see their actually most of their activity was here, yeah, and also here and here. So because as I mentioned before, elephant is a big eater, so we have to find food very much, yeah. That's why it's, and for me it's inevitable, yeah, the conflict between human and elephant, because elephant I mean the human plants food and the elephant eat the food. So it's quite difficult, yeah. But of course, using this GPS collar, the mitigation action for, how can I say, yeah, for pulling or for menghalau, yeah, for pulling in the elephant to the forest is easier, yeah, to do. Like usually the community use like petasan, yeah. How can I say petasan is
Firework.
Fireworks, yeah, fireworks to mengusir, sorry,
To dispel.
to dispel to dispel the elephant to the forest when they go out to the community agricultural field. So means that it's worth, yeah, to have GPS collar for mitigation action, because it's easier to make the elephant go again to the forest. But still, there are questions, yeah, because the community is also, how can I say, have a more they need more power, yeah. I mean, they have to guard, protect their agriculture, even though the GPS collar technology is installed. Yeah, means that this conflict still one of the big question on the in the conservation area management, yeah, especially when we talk about the elephant. And this is the estimate home range, yeah, Semaka and Pemerihan. It's quite similar with the home range of the elephant in the Lesser Bukit in the Lesser National Park in Aceh, yeah. In Aceh, it was mentioned like 97 kilometers square. But in this research, in this study, we found that in Semaka, there is 81.3 kilometers square. And Pemerihan is about, it's like a double, yeah, 187 kilometers square. And this is also the concentration of activity of Gadjah, of the elephant. You can see here, most of the activity is near to the community. Yeah, this is also one problem that needs solution. Yeah. So I still don't have solution for the elephant, but I conclude this research. Yeah. So elephant prefer to roam near to the river and near to the road. So this is related to the need of elephant to food and water, yeah, mostly. And however, the elephant need forest, yeah. So they need forest as mostly as their cover shelter, yeah. And the potential conflict of elephant were high, yeah, still high, 48% in Semaka and 83% in Pemerihan. And the conflict was arise because of many elephant food provided around the human area. So it's a bit confusing, but this is our result. So thank you very much, everyone, to listen my presentation. Thank you very much. So I give you the my time, Pak.
Yeah.
Moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Arif. It's very interesting presentation actually, and this is the first time I really know about how elephant roaming all the forest in. Is there anybody who wants to ask to Pak Arif? If not, actually, I just wondering how big is one group of elephant, Pak Arif? I mean, how many elephants within one group?
Yeah, in Semaka, there are 12 elephants in one group, yeah. Okay. But in Pemerihan, there are only four elephants in one group.
Only four, so smaller, yeah.
Yeah, so different, yeah. But the important thing is each group have their own territory. So as you see there, there are no overlap area of group. Yeah.
Yeah. I have read some paper, another publication related to African elephant actually. There is also they are also using GPS and remote sensing satellite to classify the land use and land cover. But maybe it's quite different because in Africa it's not so much conflict between the village, yeah. Because so what they map is the specific plants, which is food resources for the elephant, for the African elephants. But here in Indonesia, before there is a settlement, maybe the elephant usually eat something else in the forest. Yeah. But because now there's a lot of settlement and plantation and mixed plantation, maybe much more, how to call it, tastier the food for the elephant, and this there provided by them. So how do you explain about it? Is there any still natural food resources for elephant itself in forest?
Yeah, one that maybe we have to point it out that elephant is very clever animal. Yeah, very clever. So when he think nasi padang has a very good flavor. Yeah, I mean, it's very good. So he will eat nasi padang. I mean, okay. So Gadjah elephant is very clever. So when he know that it's
there's a tastier food, then will change. Okay.
So that's the difference. So I think one of the solution will be to change the how can I say the farmer commodity, not to produce the agricultural commodity that eatable, eatable. Okay. So maybe if you read about porang, porang is one of the agricultural food that not edible directly, not edible directly. So they have to be produced in other using other process, to produce the what you call that, the tepung, the stuff, So I think how can I say maybe the change of commodity in the farmer is preferable, but of course with a very good price, so that's maybe one of our suggestion from this result.
Yeah. So thank you, Pari. Maybe we can suggest that to the government if there is how to call it, to improve or to mitigate the conflict between human and elephant, right?
Yes.
Okay. So Parif, please don't go anywhere. I have to move to next presenter. So next present. Thank you, Parif. Next presenter will be Ibu Ita Carolita. So. Okay, thank you. So Ibu Ita also has over 30 years work experience in remote sensing applications. Now she is a researcher at Aeronautics and Space Research Organization, of BRIN, or previously LAPAN. And currently she is focusing on using remote sensing for monitoring oil palm plantations. And Bu Ita will share the information related to remote sensing application for plantation classification. So please, Bu Ita, the floor is yours. And again, I would like to remind you that you have 20 minutes to present, and 5 minutes prior the end of presentation, I will remind you again. Please, Bu Ita.
Yeah. Thank you, Pak Syarif. I will share my presentation. Okay. Can you see my presentation, Pak Syarif?
Yes, now. Yes. Now, before, it's better to slideshow.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As Pak Syarif mentioned, my name is Ita Carolita. I'm a researcher of remote sensing application, and I work for Remote Sensing Application Center, or now we are under BRIN, Organization of Aeronautics and Space. Yeah. Today, I would like to deliver my presentation with title Plantation Classification by using Sentinel satellite with a case study, South Sumatra, Indonesia. This is the collaboration result of the research that carried out by my organization, LAPAN, and WRI Indonesia. And the member of LAPAN is myself, and then Dr. Dede Gahayu, I think he is present here today. And also Pak Syarif Mudiman, thank you Pak Syarif, you are here also today. And also Pak Heronovia. And from WRI Indonesia, Pak Bukti Gadjah, and then Pak Chandra Irawadi, and Pak Fajri, and Mas Edwin. I think Pak Fajri and others from WRI also watch and follow this presentation, but using YouTube. Okay. And this is the background of the study. Sorry. This is the background of study. Here I'd like to explain about the importance of plantation database. Database of plantation is very important for space planning, not only for micro, district, or provincial, but also for national levels. And if we have good information about plantation, also about other information from other sectors such as mining, settlement distribution, and others. So we can have, or we can get the good spatial planning for achieve the development of region or each provincial or district or even national. And second, the importance of plantation is for law enforcement and damage control. And third, for sustainable plantation development program. And fourth, for commodity trade diplomacy at the international level. As we know, we have very important negotiation in the international forum about oil palm, and that's why the accurate of information about oil palm as the part of plantation is very important. And this is the challenge to have the good information of plantation. Plantation data in the area generally has not been built on an accurate spatial database, which affect the quality of national plantation. And this is caused by limitation of data provision in the area due to various technical and non-technical factors, such as human resources for the quantity and quality, data processing and storage facilities, access to technology updates, also political factor. And so for this, we need the breakthrough mapping techniques because we can get very accurate mapping and with the quality standards. And for the scope activities of our research, action research for will the best and applicative methods for generating plantation maps, generate data and information with high accuracy and the regional level. And our target is to have a map of plantation with 85% accuracy. And we also have dream to make a platform that can be used by local government. And for this collaboration, we have made a platform with first version. And this is our research flow. First, we did data collection, and for data collection, we use satellite image for the main data, and also we collect the sample from the field, from the area of south of Sumatra, and not only use the field trip or ground truth data, we also use data with very high resolution. And then we did a classification. First, land use land cover change. We did a classification by using a standard national standard of Indonesia. First, we use level 1, and then level 2, and then level 3. For level 3, we finally get the primary plantation maps. And this is the flow of our research. Data collection, as I mentioned, we use satellite image and field data. And for the processing of classification, we use method machine learning with random forest method. And then we then get land use map, and then from land use map we extract become plantation. And then because we want to make the robust model, so we test the model by using the data from the field that we didn't use as the data for processing. And I have mentioned that for this research, we use Sentinel satellite. We use Sentinel satellite because Sentinel satellite have Sentinel-1 and Sentinel-2. For Sentinel-2, we have 13 spectral channels that we can use to generate some index that have relation with plantation. And for Sentinel-1, because this is radar sensor, so we can use the information of backscatter from Sentinel-1. We all know that SAR data is very sensitive to soil moisture and to the characteristic of soil. So we can use this as the complement of Sentinel-2 as the optic. So we use both optic and radar. And for the field data, we have around 4,000 data here that cover most of South Sumatra, not only by using field data, but also we use very high resolution data such as players and also spot. And for this, LAPAN and WRI did this work together in last year before pandemic, and also in 2020 by WRI. As I mentioned before, we use standard Indonesian for the classification of land use. 7645 in 2014. But for this, for level 2, we have merged some of land use, such as non-residential buildings, and also residential building become built up area. For forest, we merge lowland forest and upland forest become dry forest, and also others we also match for some land use classes. And for the level 3, we then get some plantation kinds here. We get such as rubber plantation, coffee, cacao, tea, coconut, oil palm, and other plantation such as sugarcane. So this is the final of result of this research. And this is the samples of area land use place in the field that we collect from mostly of South Sumatra area. And then we finally get the level 3 of classification, and we get plantation classification. And this is the process for classification. We use Sentinel-2 and Sentinel-1, and also we use some index that generates from Sentinel-2. For pre-processing, we use data of Sentinel from July to December 2019 that have a cloud cover under 40% cloud. This is very difficult for Indonesian area. So for Sentinel-2, we use more than 100 data with multi-temporal data. And because we must have very clear data, so we also did cloud nesting. And we also did terrain illumination correction, and then extraction and generate some indices. And then we get training area around 70% from the total points, around 2,000 points. And then we classify with machine learning method with random forest algorithm. And then after post-classification, we get land use and land cover maps and plantation maps. This is the data that we use for this research. More than 100 scenes we use for South Sumatra for Sentinel. And then, as I mentioned before, we also did terrain illumination correction. This is important to remove the effect of topography that caused by shadow, extreme slope, and etc. This will improve accuracy of places. And for the indices, we generate some indices from Sentinel-2, NDVI, normalized difference vegetation index, normalized difference build-up index, normalized difference water index, and also modified soil adjusted vegetation index. And then because we have a lot of parameters here, so we did principal component to minimize the parameters. So we can use the main of parameters for classification. And this is for Sentinel-1. For Sentinel-1, we also use this with several polarization. Two polarization because we didn't get with a full polarization. So we only have two polarization. This is the sample of the appearance of oil palm in Sentinel-1. You can see clearly the oil palm in the Sentinel-1 image. And for the classification, we use random forest. Of course, first we make training sample for every classes as first level as level 1 first, and then after that for level 2. And this is the result of the classification for level 2. That here we have plantation classes for one class here, but for level 3 here we get plantation kinds with detail plantation, such as rubber, oil palm, coconut, coffee, and tea. And this is very good, accurate because we get around 75% for the plantation classification. And especially for oil palm, because this is one of primary community here in South Sumatra and also in Indonesia. We try to extract the information or the place of oil palm, and for this class we get around 86% accurate. But of course, this is the
young age is difficult to detect digitally. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, for young age, yeah, actually we have prediction about the youth from young age to middle age and until up to old age. But this pattern, like parable, Pak Sarif, if the young age in the young age, the youth is low, but for middle age, the youth is very high, and also then decrease up to 25 years old. But sometimes we have difficulties, Pak Sarif, because for the young age, especially for NDVI, it's mixed with the how to call the canopy, the canopy that cover the land. You I think you know that oil palm with very young age is the leaf is still not touch each other, so we can see the area between the leaves, and sometimes farmers or industry not clean up the soil, the land. So the NDVI will be mixed with the NDVI of oil palm. Yeah, that's why sometimes for a prediction of age of oil palm, the accuracy from 0 to from 1 years old to 5 years old is not good, and of course this is not good also to predict the yield.
Okay, thank you, Bu Ita. Now I would like to ask Pak Andreas, Pak Adam, Pak Arif to open the Zoom cam. So now.
Thanks, Sarif, for those questions, because they're good questions. And let me start with the quick, easy one about, is CPAL free? for the public? Yes, totally free at the moment, and this is what FAO intends to continue. We have a project funded by various donors to get the CPAL platform going, up and running, and it has been so successful with many countries wanting to use it. We just got an extension for phase 2 or 3 of CPAL. So for the next couple of years, we are getting donor funds for this. But it is proving very popular, and we believe it's going to be able to continue to be free. Because it's growing, the number of users is growing, like 7,000 people at this stage. But it depends, it does cost money for running the servers and for paying the staff. So, you know, but this is FAO's service to our member countries, and we collect the donor funds from the projects. And this one is being very considered very successful. So we're confident for the next few years, while people still want to do forest monitoring, that we will continue to try to provide the service. So that's the first question. Secondly, on LiDAR, look, I'm really excited by the potential for LiDAR work because I think it's a great technology, but I don't think it is something you need to do everywhere or on a routine basis. I think it's quite specialized, it's complex data to analyze. What I think is it definitely can help with Indonesia with some areas for getting forest height data, which is really important for getting information on biomass and on carbon. So there should be some consideration given to some kind of program for LiDAR analysis. But I think it's so expensive and complicated that, you know, it's a specialized kind of product at the moment. What I'm really more excited about is probably the global sets of LiDAR that are becoming available through the JEDI program on the International Space Station. I think that is the kind of LiDAR that it is free, open, and it's got tracks across a lot of, they cross over a lot, so you can get a lot of information out of that and use it as a sample-based approach and then extrapolate between. So I think it's got the JEDI tool has a lot of potential, and that's free and open. And in fact, some of that data is also available on Google Earth Engine, which you can then process into CPAL. So yeah, you can get some LiDAR data, but to pay for commercial LiDAR with flying aircraft, I think it needs a really specialized need, and it's hard to justify in a lot of forest areas. But it's definitely, these things are coming. So I think people should be learning how to use it, and some of this data should be available, you know, in future. I know that BRGM did a lot of work with collecting LiDAR over the peatlands, and that data should be made more use of. I think that was wall to wall, a lot of that. I think there would be some really exciting applications, for example, for looking at LiDAR using drones, when that kind of, or other aircraft on large canals to monitor some of the water levels, for example. I think we've got a lot of opportunities for things like that coming up, but the use of it is still a cost-effective limitation. And finally, I wanted to say about online training, or training for CPAL. Sorry, I missed that question. Yes, there is a lot of material already on tutorials online on the CPAL. On the GitHub, all the code is available. If you look through the FAO CPAL Open Forest system, if you type FAO Open Forest, FORIS, you will find a whole group of modules, including CPAL, listed there, and then you can click through and find the tutorials. There is PowerPoint presentations, there is an online community once people get started, and we've got a very responsive team answering the questions, and many times now other country participants are now answering other people's questions, so we built a community. I think it's a growing thing, and so I'm optimistic about that. Andreas may have some additional things that I forgot, but I see him join now. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Andreas, you may add something because you already write some address.
I mean, the platform is a constant work in progress. There's also a Google group where you can basically directly get in contact with us from the CPOL team, and somebody will answer. As well, yeah, there's some tutorial videos that you can find. And I mean, usually when it comes to capacity building, those are usually within projects. But we try to homogenize our material, and I mean, that's until now it's an idea, but to provide more videos on YouTube channel. So we have a YouTube channel that for now has just a very few videos on processing of radar, for example. But we hope that we can add up to this so that people can basically learn at their own pace. And yeah, for now that's it. So we haven't considered yet, let's say, like a conference, capacity building where everybody can join. It's rather project related for now, but I mean, it's not excluded that this will change for the future. And yeah, maybe my opinion on LiDAR, I mean, if you have the money to find it, why not? But I mean, as Adam said, it's very expensive, so it's likely going to be a trade-off. And then, of course, I mean, it should be also be very clear why you need it and what you want to do with it. And I mean, just having something for the sake of having it is one thing, but like, I mean, as Adam said, like especially for carbon and those things, it can be very interesting, for sure. Also for land use planning. So I mean, there's a lot of things that definitely could profit from a LiDAR, countrywide LiDAR data set. So this is not just forestry. So I think if there should be a LiDAR data set countrywide, it should probably not be just like the forestry department, but something governmental that then serves all the governmental agencies. And with this, maybe there's also some more justification in terms of the cost that comes with something like this. Okay.
Adam?
Thank you.
Yeah, just to add a really quick point, building on what Andreas said, I think that for LiDAR, for example, in fact, for most remote sensing, LAPAN is obviously been the repository. I think for LiDAR, for example, I'm not aware that anybody is doing that. And there could be some interesting models. The United States passed some legislation decades ago that said that any remote sensing data that was acquired or over the United States by satellites should be available to the government agencies. So I'm not sure whether that kind of legislation exists in Indonesia or whether it would be possible. But I'm thinking, for example, for LiDAR data, you could also encourage the commercial providers, once they have used it for their commercial purpose, maybe after a few years, when it's no longer needed for the building or the road or the bridge or whatever they were doing with it, maybe they could put it in a library and it would be available for other people to use. It doesn't matter for forestry if the data is a few years old. So maybe you could collect a library of LiDAR that would be an extremely useful resource for other people to use for validation and testing. I just give that idea as an opportunity. I know when I worked in Australia, we were looking at trying to encourage companies to donate their old LiDAR data before they delete it, just so it could be used and stored. And so keep that idea in mind, and maybe BIG or LAPAN could facilitate that. It would be fantastic. Thanks.
Thank you, Padam, to remind that, because we have that policy, but only for the government agency. So if the government agency has the data, the remote sensing
have access to the data more or less what is available on Earth. And I mean, they try to get the data as soon as possible once it's available from the different space agencies, data providers. So let's say it's quasi near real time. On the other hand, as I've shown, you can launch your own machines, your own instances that have some basic libraries, but there it's like having your own computer in the cloud. And if you have scripts that download data as soon as it's available, like even from other agencies, other data sources that are not available through Earth Engine. So, for example, the Chinese satellites or other data, maybe commercial data. I know in Indonesia has a long collaboration with JAXA also, where there have been a lot of data there. So this is possible, but then of course, as I said, like this is more for expert users because you can run your own scripts basically. So you would need your own scripts and you need a higher level of expertise. But yeah, in this sense, CPOL is quite flexible. Yeah.
Okay, I would like to continue to that question. Oh, Adam, you want to mention something?
Just a really quick one to mention, which if you're looking for live up-to-date data, some of the best sources is the Planet. What the state of the forest, or they get the images from yesterday, and they're actually quite good at doing that. And so for some urgent sort of inquiries like fire monitoring, that planet data is a really good source, and that is updated frequently because they have a constellation of satellites going around. So you've got a really good source of data at that. And I think it makes it into CPulse very soon after it's available through Planet because they're connected somehow.
Okay. Before Pak Arif, actually I would like to ask again to Andreas. I would like to link the CPUL to what Pak Arif.
That could, for example, be training data, and you asset, and then you have a classification recipe in CPOL where you can include optical data, radar data. You can even include fixed assets from Earth Engine itself. So it's really becoming a multi-sensor, multi-data kind of classification. So for example, precipitation can be interesting. So you could, for example, load precipitation and these kind of things. And then you combine it with your local data. We know some people, they want to retain the data ownership, and that's not always 100% clear. I'm not a lawyer, so I really cannot tell you about the details, but I mean, what is our solution basically is that then you can still run those local instances, and there you can upload your data and run also classification there with Python or with Orfeo Toolbox or Snap. And so all those libraries, and as well as Google Earth Engine, they all contain like this, let's say, standard machine learning approaches. Random forest, KNN, scalable vector machines, you name it. For the deep learning, so what is a bit more prominent, or what becomes a bit more trendy, let's say, also in the last years, we have TensorFlow installed. And so you have Jupyter notebooks, and you can run GPU machines. So also there, you would still have to do your things on your own probably there, because you need to script there. So again, like if you go into deep learning, you need to be an expert. but you can do it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Pak Arif, please.
Yeah, just picture Pak Adam ya, Pak Budi Harto, and I know that Pak Budi Harto is maybe the lead of the document I mean, we made now we are in the process of submitting the new FREL, yeah, Forest Reference Emission Level for RED+. And I know Pak Budi is the head of this activity, yeah. And I also one of the member of this FREL, what do you call that, author, yeah. And one of the problem that arise in this FREL is how to how can I say, to review the technique, the method of counting and accounting, yeah, to measure the emission from peatland, yeah. And in the previous method we use the method that come from the UNFCCC 2000 and IPCC 2014, yeah, that measure the emission using groundwater level that proxied, yeah, by cover, yeah, by the land cover. So when we use one land cover, then we assume that the ground level is at this height, for example. So that is one of a methodology that we always criticize, because we never got, you know, how can I say, reduce emission from peatland. From peatland, if we use that methodology. So I always say that we need to have a new methodology for measuring the height of water level, and that's, of course, it will be associated with the emission, yeah. So I saw from your presentation, it's very good that you can measure the ground level with, I don't know, with a certain percentage, yeah, I mean the accuracy and etc. But my question is, do you have good, I mean, how is the communication between your methodology and with Pak Budi, yeah? Because Pak Budi is the head of the FREL, I don't know, the new FREL for Indonesia, and how much is this methodology can be, I mean, how much the potential of this methodology can be absorbed by this team, yeah? I mean, it's very important for me, yeah, to measure the groundwater level with a precise accuracy, yeah, of course, and it's related to the landscape, yeah, not only related to the point measurement, but we need to have a map, you know, a landscape scale of groundwater level. So I think if you say that this methodology is good, then how is your communication with this FREL team? Yep. So maybe that's my question. But
okay, great question. This is really starting to put a lot of information. All the other agencies. So staff came from LAPAN, they came from KLK. We had quite a few different groups from KLK came to our training workshops at different times. We had many staff. Definitely we had some from, I know Pak Budi personally, I have worked with him. He's come to our training workshops even since 11 years ago when I first was working with FAO. He came to our training workshop in Bangkok. So I know him for a long time. And his staff have actually come to our training workshops and attended. Several staff from PPI have come. So they know these techniques and they're learning them. But at the moment, I have to say this technique is still in development. We are still working out we have a methodology, but we need to get good validation for it to be able to be used for something as important as your national communications or something. I think it's not quite there yet, but it definitely should be tested alongside the existing data, because I actually believe that it has the potential to do two things. One, it might show that your peatland, it could go two ways. Your peatland emissions are going down. If we can prove that the water levels are coming up with the rewetting that agencies are doing, this would be fantastic. But that study has not been completed yet. I think we now have the tools to work on that. And I think there is a lot of potential for that. So at the moment, we are at the proof of concept stage. We've tested it. We need to move to the next stages in the next couple of years to make it operational. I don't think we're ready for your FREL in January, but I really hope that we could continue to work on that, and we'd be able to offer to definitely do that in our future project work. So that's certainly something we are thinking about. We've also had some really good people from PKTL with Ibuati and Pat Waluyo and others over there have been doing some great analysis. Other people up at the Fordia, I don't know if they're going into BRIN or not, but they've also been using some of Pat Wayu up there with Ibu Haruni Krishnawati, has also been coming to our training workshops and using CPAL and doing further analysis. People from the research institutes have been coming as well. So I'm really hopeful we can get some data. It's probably not operational for government level international reporting yet. We need to publish some papers and then get this reported on. But we would really like to work on that in the next year. And it would definitely come into a future FREL improvement product. I would be very pleased to work on that in the next year or so. So let's talk more, and we can meet with Pat Budi as well and follow up on that. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I'm afraid that the time is... among us, but still as a model, we will have some information to warn us or to give us some indication what happened in the world itself, of course to some degree of accuracies. And the last, but not least, I just want to say that if we save the forest, we save our home, because forest is our home. Thank you very much, everybody, and thank you, Pak Adam, Pak Andreas, Pak Arif, Ibu Ota, for very interesting presentation, and thank you for all participants. Tomorrow there will be a more technical, how to call it, workshop related to using machine learning and also, if I'm not mistaken, Google engine or something like that. So for those who already registered as participant, please don't forget the time. And for everybody here, thank you very much again. See you next time in the very